I'm Dion Parson, educator, drummer, percussionist, and I'm from St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. Young Dion Parson growing up in the Virgin Islands, I was a curious kid about music. You know, my father, I was fortunate to have a father, Sonny Parson. For those of you who know Sonny, he was a very outgoing guy, loved the music, so he took me everywhere with him. And I can remember one situation that stands out in my mind. I was 6 years old and I went to Sebastian's at the waterfront. That's where Tommy Hilfiger is right now. And a gentleman by the name of John Lucien, the great John Lucien, was performing with his band. And my father took me to the club and we was hanging out. And he said, man, I'm going somewhere, I'm gonna be right back. So just sit right there. And he put me at the end of the stage to sit with the band. And he told John, you know, look out for my son. And so I just sat there in awe, listening to John sing and checking out the band all night. And every once in a while, John would say, yeah, just go up to the bartender and tell him I need another drink. So I was like running back and forth. But just sitting on the bandstand, listening to this music being played, just kind of triggered everything for me. And, you know, I played trombone. I was taught the trombone from 4th grade by Dr. Trotman. And I played trombone up until high school. And in high school, I switched to the drums. My mother went to school and told the band director not to let me play the drums because I wrecked all the furniture, I banged up on all the pots and pans. Everything was a makeshift drum at home. And being a single mom, you know how it is. Me being the only boy in the house and, you know, mom working 2 to 3 jobs sometimes coming home, she wasn't having drums in the house. So I was always a drummer in my heart. As young as I could remember, that's what I wanted to do. That's what I envisioned doing. I used to dream about it. And Dr. Trotman, being, you know, the intuitive teacher that he is, said to me like, okay, you know what? Let's put the drums aside for now. I play the trombone. I'll teach you to play the trombone. You could be a great trombone player, and we'll figure something out as we go along. I left St. Thomas and I went to Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey. I ended up at Rutgers because when I was in 10th grade, there was a concert at the University of the Virgin Islands, and a gentleman by the name of Dr. Lawrence McClellan, who then at the time was the head of the music department at the University of the Virgin Islands, he invited a group of guys down to perform and do a jazz concert. And they were called, they was known as the Rutgers University Jazz Professors. And they used to travel the country recruiting students. And that's how I ended up at Rutgers. My concept of jazz was like Yellow Jackets, Spyro Gyra, you know, that type of stuff. So these guys completely opened up. That's when the light switch went off. Those guys completely opened up a whole nother world for me. A sound, a musical sound, and a concept of drumming that I never ever heard. The freedom of playing jazz, playing improvised music is what really got me. I started working with a lot of great musicians in New York. Like I said, I came to New York playing with Ray Anderson. Then after 3 years with Ray, I started working with a piano player named Stephen Scott. And through my association with Stephen Scott, my good friend Dwayne Burno, bass player who just passed away December 28, Dwayne and I came, I was the first bass player I met in New York when I used to come to New York and hang out. Dwayne's birthday was the day before mine. Dwayne introduced me to a saxophone player named Donald Harrison from New Orleans. He's a big chief for his Indian tribe in New Orleans. And Donald invited me to come and play with him, so I spent a lot of time in New Orleans. And Dwayne also introduced me to a gentleman by the name of John Faddis, one of the leading trumpet players in the world, protege of Dizzy Gillespie. He used to direct the Carnegie Hall Big Band, and I'm still playing with John to this day, 20 years later. That period was a pinnacle point because I started playing with the serious jazz icons, the Milt Jacksons, the Monty Alexander, then through John, working with John with the Carnegie Hall Big Band, I met Steve Torre. And Steve Torre was the #1 trombone player for many years, downbeat pole, trombone player on Saturday Night Live, and he plays the conch shells. And a matter of fact, in in March, I took Steve home. I was on tour with him in Italy, and I took him to St. Thomas, and we did a mentoring program through the schools, and we did a concert of Jazz on the Dock. So, the mid-20s and mid-30s was a major, major point for me. I met the great Ernest Ranglin, the gentleman from Jamaica, the guitar player that invented the skank rhythm, skank, skank, skank. He invented that rhythm, Scatolites, and I worked with him. We went to Africa, recorded in Africa. I traveled the world with him, and I met a piano player through my association with Ira Coleman, playing with Monty Alexander. I met a piano player named Laurent Deville. Laurent Deville is a French piano player, and I worked with Laurent for about 3.5 years, and through my association with him working for Sony Records in France and Japan and the Middle East, we won what's equivalent to a Grammy in France, Victoire de la Musique over there, and which was good because we got to just tour and promote the music over there a lot. So I spent a lot of time in France doing that. So I would say between being 26, 27 years old until I was about maybe 10 years later, 27, 28 years old, I mean, just nonstop, just playing with these guys. And within that time, the other Highland was putting together 21st Century Band. A band comprised of Virgin Islanders. My good friend Ron Blake and I co-founded the band, and we decided to use it as a platform to feature our Caribbean heritage, our Quail Bay music, calypso, reggae, soca. And so we invited Ruben Rogers to join us, and then we invited Rashawn Ross, a trumpet player, and then eventually we got Victor Provost and Steel Pan to come along and play with us. So we've been getting some good success with the band and some good exposure with the band. So I never wanted to be a band leader. That's the other thing. That's something that just kind of fell in my lap. And here I am, running a band, leading a band of amazing Virgin Islanders, really guys, out here, just equally as successful, if not more successful than I am in the business, just doing this, and we have a group together just representing the Virgin Islands. We've put out 4 recordings. I've kind of taken the lead and took over the band, and the last 2 recordings are live at Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola, which is the jazz club. Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola is part of Lincoln Center, Jazz in Lincoln Center, and the CDs are Volume 1 and Volume 2. And we're in the process of releasing another CD. So we just recorded in January, and myself and Rashawn Ross producing the album, and we're having a lot of fun doing this, and it's gonna be released, and we're gonna have a good time doing it. So 21st Century Band is kind of like our platform to showcase and feature our homegrown talents here in the cultured jazz world, as we call it. So we've done a great job combining both genres and both cultures, and we're getting some good success out of it. And I had some great teachers that always said to me, you don't own this. They'll say, D, you don't own this. Like, I don't own this. I'm teaching you, I'm giving you this knowledge. So when you see yourself coming at you, when you see the next Dion Parson coming at you, take the time out to give that knowledge to that young man or young woman, because that's the worst thing you could do is not pass it on. So it became like second nature to me to just give, something to the kids, work with them. And then I started our watch series. Every time the band played at home, we kind of gave instruments away. Rashawn would give a trumpet here, Ruben would give this, it just kind of was something that we did. And we knew we went into the schools, they needed drums. I've gave away 6 sets of drums already. And it just kind of became something that we did. Then one day, I was on the road and I had some time off, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna cash in some frequent flyer miles and just go home and do some things. So I remember going to Interlaken through the Council of the Arts. So I contacted the Council of the Arts and my dear friend there, Betty Mahoney, who's still there. She's a director now. Betty used to say to me, anytime you're coming home, let me know. Maybe we can do something and get you into school. So I contacted Betty and said, well, I have some time, I'm coming home. And so she put a schedule together for me, and I went into the schools, talked to the kids, played for them, gave them some information, and it kind of turned into a good thing. I feel good to know that I'm bringing some quality to the Virgin Islands and representing them around the world. I mean, I have so many stories of people that I've met around the world that once they found out I'm from the Virgin Islands, come up to me and tell me stories. I remember one of the last music festivals, one of the last jazz festivals they had an island of St. Croix. I played there. I had Mark Harry on piano, Ruben Rogers was on bass, and a guy from Belize named Abraham Burton playing saxophone. And after the concert, we were in the back signing autographs and everything. And a week later, I was in Spain playing with Monty Alexander. And when we finished that concert, this couple came backstage with pictures of me with them from the week before on St. Croix. They said, we drove 2 hours to come see you, to bring you this picture because we met you in St. Thomas on St. Croix, 2 weeks ago, and they were in Spain. So it's good to know that we're from one of the most beautiful places on this planet, and people love it. The Virgin Islands is a great place. So it's good to have a home. That's a world-renowned home. So I have no problem being an ambassador of the Virgin Islands. I love it.